Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful empowered harmonizers. We are zooming in and focusing in a little bit more in depth on a great viewer question, and that is, how do I get more confidence? How do I clear my thoughts after being and coming out of a relationship with someone who is toxic, where things have gotten downright bad, downright ugly? There's been a lot of fighting going on. There's been a lot of betrayal. And this person has mistreated you. And you find it very difficult now to get confidence in yourself. So I think that's a great viewer question. So we're going to zoom in and focus in on that. Well, to understand confidence, after you've been through a relationship or a series of relationships where things have spun out of control. Perhaps there's been a lot of hostility, yelling, aggression, mistakes, things that aren't worked through, talked to, forgiven, understood, respected for your humanness, for being who you are. This can leave a scar, a feeling of being damaged, a feeling of having and harboring self-doubt, lack of self-trust, feeling down and out, depressed, fearful, just sort of, unhappy about your situation. You're in a bad place. This can breed and foster low self-confidence, lack of focus, and kind of lack of vision for your life and relationships, your prosperity, and your decision-making in the future. When you have been involved in a relationship with someone who is toxic, manipulative, maybe they are a malignant narcissist, a psychopathic, whatever the label, let's just let that go for now. I am not a doctor. We're not here to label, treat, and diagnose individuals in your life. We're not here to do that for you either. We're here to boil it down to some simple terms. And I would say unequivocally, everybody knows who is on this channel what a toxic relationship looks like and feels like. So let's just come to some common terms here and get a solid foundation for helping you to move into better self-confidence, self-trust, self-awareness, having a mindfulness about yourself and self-respect. So there's not this feeling of imploding or exploding, this feeling of being lost or not being able to make amends with these individuals who you're not seeing eye to eye with. The foundation of a toxic relationship oftentimes is met with a lot of boundary violation, what I would call violation energy, where certain lines have been crossed or enmeshed. They're not clear. There's can be a certain sense of dependency fostered, codependency. My happiness relies on you. My success relies on you or involves you. My feeling of self-confidence relies on you. There's this external locus of control where really both parties, either consciously or oftentimes unconsciously, have this blurring of boundaries. There's a codependency status that can be created in a relationship with someone who is narcissistic. In other words, pathologically self-absorbed. They have a sense of entitlement, a sense of exploitation of others, taking others for granted, as well as pathological lying. Lying day in and day out about things that they don't need to lie about, but they do just to pull one over on people. It's a very sad and sorry state of affairs when you're in a relationship with someone who is taking advantage of you, exploiting you, especially for your vulnerability and your humanness and your authenticity. So there's a feeling of dishonesty and false accusations that can be hurled in the air. Lack of support in the relationship. A lot of bad looks. Oh, really? You're up to this again. Oh, really? You did this. Oh, really? You got, oh, really? You got this. Oh, really? You're starting that diet. Oh, really? You got those shoes. Oh, really? You have this friend. Oh, really? You're going on this vacation. So it's a very sort of disrespectful, they're not supportive, even though, and it gets people on pins and needles. They're walking on eggs. They're afraid to share the good things of life, their true accomplishments. Because they feel that it's going to be taken away. Their joy is going to be robbed or leached away by this individual. There's this sort of always seesawing and weighing back and forth of, prove it to me, you can't prove it to me. A lot of this battling back and forth. Or really, prove it to me, you're going to be nice. Then, you're nice. Oh, then they come in and then they land you one right in the gut. Bringing back, past mistakes or situations and bringing the past into the present. Remember this, remember that, and then they're doing it with intention to trigger you or set you off. So the whole thing can be a very complicated mess when you're trying to have a relationship and declare boundaries and confidence with these people. So really, to get confidence is to know that you have to declare, know, and enforce what your boundaries and your standards are. This takes some effort. This takes some working through. This takes some internal dialogue, coming to heart within yourself. You need to have this clarity of internal dialogue and coming down to the root of it, the base of it, the foundation, and knowing when, where, and why all this started. And it's bringing this unconscious to light. So you need to kind of go in and do a little bit of self-reflection and kind of looking back into the relationship and understanding at least what the mess looks like. I come to them with this story, with this situation. They don't give me eye contact. They don't really care. They seem to give me this look of, disapproval, and they're testing me, and I find this very uncomfortable. So you can see that there's an emotional element. There's this energy in motion, which is causing this unpleasant interaction. So you try to share something good. Basically, you're throwing pearls at swine at this point. You're hurling, your positive into something that's going to make it all muddy, mucked up, and it's going to be swallowed and, asterisk, asterisk out the back end. It's to the point where you don't recognize your accomplishments anymore. It's like putting your best self through the meat grinder and wondering why you're not whole anymore. You're going to get grilled. It's a tactic that individuals will use to either hold you back, keep you small, be very dismissive of you. Like, in other words, they're not helping to fan your fire. They're not, happy for your success. They're not oohing and ahhing like, OMG, verifying and validating your true, honest successes. They're just holding something against you, a grudge, a previous indiscretion, and it ends up tainting or, muddying the waters, I think is the other statement that a lot of people use to describe this, this phenomenon. And so your self-confidence is going to go right down the tubes. It's going to go right offline. It's going to go off the rails. It's going to be difficult to find and recognize. There comes a point where you really do need to come down to that bottom foundation and say, okay, enough is enough. Moving forward, I'm going to declare and enforce my boundaries and my standards, meaning what I will tolerate and also where I end and they begin, and to recognize that you own and are responsible for your emotions, for self-regulating, for your decisions, for your tone, for managing and coping instead of being flying off the handle, flying off the hook, having a knee-jerk reaction, or just being downright dragging yourself through the mud all day. You are the one that's responsible for your internal environment, what I call your internal real estate, how you feel about yourself in life energetically at the core. If you have a past which involves a lot of these people who violate your boundaries, who create this codependency where they can be kind of holding you back, in other words, not supportive, so there's this boundary violation, a trauma bond, where there's always this feeling of getting out of control, this engineered chaos, and you're then allowing them in to be responsible or integrated responsibility for your being. In other words, you're not allowed to be independent, have your own money, have your own place, have your own friends, have your own style, have your own values, being independent, being free and liberated to be yourself. So there's this sort of enmeshment where codependency is where not you become dependent on pleasing others or others fixing others to gratify and fulfill your own needs. So there's this external locus of control. I need to take care of and fix this individual in order to feel that I'm a person of self-worth. And then so there's this cycle, there's a pattern that goes on. I must, help them with their education. I must help them with their job. I must help them with their diet. I must help them with their finances. I must help them with their self-destructiveness. I must help them with their eating patterns. I must help them with their financial patterns. I must assist them with their relationships. I must assist them spiritually. There's all this, I must shop for them. I must cook for them. I must email, whatever it is for them. And then satisfying their needs then fills me up. There's this sort of overriding or skipping of one's own place in the world, in the universe, in the relationship, in the family, and then moving forward in life. So there's this enmeshment or lack of clarity of boundaries. This is me and this is you. There's some sort of separation. This needs to take place for confidence to be able to live in your heart. You can really only have confidence, which goes through situations, good, bad, indifferent, when you have a sense of yourself and your own boundaries and standards. In other words, I can do, independently, and that is okay. Being able to live on that independent 2 feet mentality, where you're not in a codependent state, where your happiness and your success is reinforced and it requires others in order to take care of them to feel good about yourself. So, because then when this person, wants to be independent themselves or be free and not have a lot of strings attached or whatever it is now, the ties that bind. In other words, there's a dependency. You need me to pick you up. You need me to assist you with your emotions. You need me to help you financially. You need me to help you just make your own decisions. Should I go to the doctor or not? Should I have medication or not? Should I go on a vacation or not? Should I do this or not? So there's a lack of independent thinking that is required for you to get your self-confidence back. So if you've kind of had this enmeshment where another is responsible for your well-being or your well-being is dependent on another, then you're always going to have what I feel is like a moving target, a moving of the rules. The rules are going to go up and down, and they can be carried away with the wind. If there's too many dependency issues, either depending on someone emotionally, financially, spiritually, if there's too much of this or too often, then there's going to be a lack of confidence because you haven't learned to feel what it's like to go through your own decision making, your own challenges, being able to be like a branch in the wind. In other words, like how can I cope with situations myself? In other words, when I get those dirty looks, does it make me break off my branches? I use a lot of analogies, but in other words, do I break? am I too getting, is it too much where one more gust of wind and I just fly off the tree? In other words, how can you learn to modulate and self-govern and self-manage these emotions that will help you with confidence? Unequivocally, you need to have boundaries and standards and be assertive of these. Enforcing of these, do a body scan. Know that you have trillions and trillions and trillions of cells that are working right now, that are, breaking down last night's dinner, yesterday's, whatever, this morning's omelet. It's you're digesting food, you're respirating, you're breathing in oxygen, you're exhaling carbon dioxide. There's all sorts of policy, all sorts of primal energies that are running through you, as well as your reasoning mind. So as you know, from the Peace and Harmony channel, we talk really in depth, especially about the subconscious mind, that is really fed and nourished on images. It does not speak English. It speaks the language of images. So to get your confidence back and understand what boundaries and standards are, you need to have a little bit of learning and to understand that you need some time to be and live within your own peaceful, functioning body that's in a neutral, grounded state. How do I get there? Well, for one, you need to be unglued off the couch. You need to have your eyes unglued, from the floor. You need to have your heart unglued from this traumatic situation. You need to detach like a suction cup. Even if you have to pull yourself out energetically and pull yourself up energetically as well. Get into a situation where you are now acting with free will. Free will. Not free willy, not whatever, free will. So being able to get into a position where you can now consciously direct yourself. And Stuart Wilde always had in his workshops, in a lot of his talks, he spoke about, his master who would tell him to go out to the yard and walk 12 steps to the east and 12 steps to the west, 12 steps to the north, 12 steps to the south. So if you're able to do something like this simple exercise, this can help ground you. If you need to do earthing, in other words, begin to recycle a lot of this negative, low-grade energy coming from it within your body, the funk, the unhappiness, the soured look. Take your shoes off, and even if you're in a very cold climate, well, this won't work, but you need to take your shoes off and really go outside and begin to allow Mother Earth, the great mother, to take and recycle a lot of your negative ions or your negative energy, and to help recycle these. This is known as grounding and earthing. You can go ahead and research this, but this is a way for a lot of that static energy to be released through the feet into the earth, and you will get a positive recycling of this negative energy, and you'll be able to feel a difference. So if you can do a simple exercise, going out to your yard, going to a forest preserve, going to a park, someplace where you can take your shoes out and do a simple exercise of free will. I'm going to begin at one spot, and I'm going to walk 12 steps to the north, 12 steps to the south, 12 steps to the east, 12 steps to the west, and then back again. I'm going to do, and that is so you can just get a feel for what your free will looks like and feels like. This is the beginning of self-confidence. This is the beginning of understanding your independence. Aside from all the habitual thinking, feeling, and behaving that goes along with low self-confidence. Low self-confidence is nothing but a repetition of old patterns. Dr. Joe Dispenza, we talk about, the mind has about 90 to 95,000 thoughts per day, and 95% of those are the same. So we have very, very few new thoughts every day. So it's important for you to kind of jog your system and begin to break the pattern. Break the pattern of no confidence, breaking the pattern of the depression, the things, the ties that have bound you, the old thinking, sort of being, connected to the past in a negative way. So to get yourself separated and distinct from the past and then how you were labeled or treated in the past. So we need to break free of that feeling, particularly, and that mindset, and then the habitual behaviors and feelings and way that you carry yourself, which are tied to these past indiscretions, the criticism that was hurled at you, the looks, the sneers, the controlling looks, the controlling behaviors. Need to get rid of all of those and come into the present. So this can be done. This is not to be said. This is not, you can't learn to ride a bicycle at a seminar. I think that was the title of a great book. But you can't ride a bicycle just by reading about it in a book. You need to actually get on the bike and pedal it and see what it's like to balance yourself. In fact, going for a bike ride would be a great recovery date. Even if you're an adult, get a bike. This year, make a commitment to do something fun and positive for your self-confidence and your self-esteem and your energy, and get yourself involved so you can come back into your body. Come back into your senses and let it all go. Leave the past behind. Be able to come to a new, neutral foundation, which is not typified by really highs or really lows. Let's go ahead and just make things a little bit more gentle and make the lows your highs and make the highs your lows. In other words, being able to neuromodulate your own feelings. In other words, rather than getting off the rails excited, temper it down. Rather than getting off the rails depressed, temper it up. So begin to get, a feeling of pulling towards this happy balance and harmony. The balance is very important for you to begin to have consistency and persistency in getting your self-confidence and declaring your boundaries and standards. A lot of people, even grown adults, have woken up to the fact that they have very little boundaries and very little standards, that they have, consciously known, felt, and enforced. And so, really, the experience of this free will be able to assist you to get your confidence back. And when you do this, you'll begin to come back into your body and then being able to breathe through these experiences and begin to have internal dialogue, which is supportive in nature and your own in nature, and just coming back to a very simple 2-word statement: I am. I am. I am. And being able to just those are the most powerful 2 words outside of help me in the language, is I am. It's declarative, it's true, it's real, it's the foundation of your heart. And when you repeat that and you just breathe into it, I am, and you say that with conviction, you'll begin to really feel and take back a sense of ownership, responsibility, and accountability for your life and your feelings. I am. And then we're creating boundaries. It is to know that you have an energetic field that stretches out 8 to 9 feet around you, and this is your space. This is your inalienable right, that you have this energetic space. And we talk about the subconscious mind, and it is to understand that you need to then prime your subconscious mind and feed it not only English, but images as well. Because, not only these statements, but not only these actions, because actions will speak louder than words. So, and then this is there's a lot involved to getting to your self-confidence, but I would say this is a great place to start, which is being able to move into the direction of free will, and then being able to do this in a positive, gentle, doable manner, and being able to get back into the flow of helping yourself to move along, getting that connection of commanding yourself to do something and then doing it and saying, okay, we've got a connection here. There's a command and, a response. It's in here. I'm responsible. And then so you're able to jog your body into this awareness, an experience of choice and free will. That is, in my viewpoint, a lot of the beginning part of confidence in being able to create and manifest happiness, abundance, the positive relationships that are typified by positive boundaries and positive standards that you live in. These are yours. These are self-created. These are self-experienced. These are self-enforced. These are self-embraced. These are self-respected. This has to begin to come from within. It's Plato, know thyself, and also be thyself. It is important for you to get a feeling of this despite all the crap, the muck, the dirt that has happened. Okay, we need to get, to a place where we know that solutions happen and miracles and magic happen in life. So it's time to jog that manifestation into place. And then also, it is to know a little bit about the neurostructure, basically, that you've got the brainstem, which is millions of years old, which is, really that regulates a lot of your breathing, your heart rate, all that good stuff. And then you've got the limbic brain, the reptilian brain, which is your energy and motion, which is also millions of years old in its development. And it's part of, your emotions. So you feel angry when your, boundaries are violated. You feel a sense of loss or hurt in relationships, or, your own personal blows to the ego, your spun off center. So these are your emotions. This is, we need to get into this area of the brain, as well as the prefrontal cortex, which is the newest part of the brain, which is logic, reasoning, your decision making, and your dreaming of the future. We need to kind of go back some levels into that subconscious part of you, which is a very powerful and also not well understood aspect of being a human being, not a human doing, but to back into your center to get your confidence. We need to go back there and be able to prime the subconscious. It does not speak English. It speaks the language of images. So you need to be able to feed it positive images, being able to look around. Do you have a lot of do you have a lot of negative images in your environment? Do you have a lot of negative items which are sort of charged with a negative energy? Something that somebody gave you, a bad picture, a bad art, a bad furniture, whatever it is that seems to have a lot of this negative energy, or is a negative memory for you, or has or stores negative memories for you. Begin to clean these out of your environment and clean them out of your mind, and begin to bring the positive back in. Whether it's positive art, positive furniture, a positive picture, what is it that you aspire and you really dream about? If I wasn't so dragged down by a lot of this, I would really love to see. I would really love to do. I would really love to have. I would really love to become. What are the answers to this? And then begin to fill your environment with images and with items that reflect this back to you. So if you're aspiring and you have, that's why I find it very important to have a mentor, to have somebody who you respect, and to have an image of them, and to put them up on your fridge. So if you really have a great admiration for a musician, who really aspire, who is very important to you, get an image of them. If there's a religious figure, a business figure, a political figure, someone who you really look up to, begin to bring their energy into your environment. Positive art, positive furniture, positive books, things that draw the positive to you, that help you, and to kickstart you, and positively feeding positive images to your mind, and then being able to reinforce those through things like personal goals, having them written down in their numeric. So if you have an income goal, having those written down and posted in your environment, your work office, or your relationship goals. What does it look like? What are images that you can find in a magazine that looks kind of like you or kind of like the person who you'd like to be with? But let's begin with you and begin to look through some magazines and look for images that are positive reinforcements. Begin to go there, feed and fill your environment with the positive, and your confidence will pick up. Please do this for 30 days. Please be consciously aware and begin to also write down one positive aspect about yourself in your discovery journal every single day, or your appointment book. I am funny. I am kind. I am nice. Begin to write that down once a day for 30 days. And then also to add this in as a next step, get in your discovery journal and write this 1,000 times. I am kind. Write that down 1,000 times. You'll get that kinesthetic connection, the body-mind connection, and it'll be a command and a nourishment to your subconscious. You're feeding it the positive, and then it'll begin to live in your heart where it can really take off, take energy, and take basically the fuel that it needs to live this, be this, and breathe this in your life. You'll begin to jog that subconscious, which will then be working in your favor rather than against you. It is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today. I hope these videos do help. Please share and please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support. Peace out.